welcome to another episode of Unfiltered. That's right, I am back from Dayton, Ohio. Had a wonderful trip for the most part. Let's go over here, I'll tell you all about it. So, great trip out to Dayton. I left last Tuesday afternoon and got out there about 30 miles away from Dayton at about 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. Took a nap till 7. Got up, drove the rest of the way into the Air Force Museum. That is in Riverside, actually in Riverside, Ohio. What an amazing and fantastic place this is. If any of you saw my my Facebook Live post over the weekend, it's just it's a little intimidating because there is so much stuff to do and see and read and learn that it's overwhelming. So I took it, a little bit at a time. Made a sweep through on Wednesday. Came back on Thursday and spent Thursday as well in the museum. All day Thursday, all day Wednesday, all day Thursday. So probably a total of, 17, 18 hours in the museum. I didn't go to any of the big IMAX things that they do. I didn't do the motion ride where or the virtual reality thing where you can feel like you're taking a spacewalk out of the International Space Station. I did, however, do the fighter pilot simulator, which was, very cool. It was one of the best simulator I've ever been in. And it's pretty much one of those first-person fighter jet shoot-'em-up games. But you're inside of a capsule with a harness that comes over your chest and across your waist, tightened right down, and then one of those like roller coaster bars over the top of you. And the simulator not only goes up and down and left to right, but it will spin all the way around. So you jack that stick over to the left and you will end up hanging upside down in the seat, which is kind of cool. Let's see, World War I, a lot of stuff. One of the buildings, actually, I guess it would be in the same building, but the first building is divided into two sections. One of is the World War I to World War II. So it's the very beginning of aviation from the Wright brothers right up through what they call interwar years between the First and Second World War. There was a drone, well, not really a drone, it was basically a flying bomb that was made with wood and cloth wings, and it had a little sled that it launched off of. And I'm trying to remember now because every item in the place had a little, plaque telling about it. And I can't remember the exact year without looking at the pictures. But I'll have a future episode which will include all these pictures a little bit down the road, and I'll explain why my picture editing is on hold for a little while. But it was basically an unmanned bomb with a small motor on it and a limited supply of gas, and it would fly for so far until it hit a certain point, and the motor would stop, and it would detach from the wings, which I guess would crash somewhere else, and then this bomb would go down and blow up, almost like a drone. But this is in the early 1900s. Unmanned aircraft. That's right. So that was kind of cool. They had everything from some of the Wright brothers planes to the Fokker DR-1 triplane. I believe it's a DR-1 triplane. Which was cool. That's the big... as a teenager, I played a war game called Richtofen's War, which was a World War I strategy game involving aircraft and aviation. And that plane was always one of my favorite German planes, was the Fokker triplane. And every time, the main problem with the Fokker triplane was that in extended dives, the top wing tended to rip off. So anyway, just a little tidbit of information. The other part of that building, as you walk out of the interwar years into, you go down a hallway that is dedicated to the Holocaust. And one of the most prized exhibits that the museum owns is in this hallway, and it is an actual prisoner uniform from, I believe, the prison camp in Dachau. So, very cool. They had, things that talked about the Berlin airlift, and all that in that little hallway, and the persecution of the Jews. Had one exhibit of a dog with a parachute, a boxer dog with a parachute. I guess he's a famous thing, and I'll get pictures of all this to have a dedicated episode just to explaining all this stuff. But after you go through this hallway for the Holocaust, then you get into the World War II stuff, and that's all of your famous World War II planes, including the newest piece in the exhibit, which actually was just opened, the B-17 Memphis Belle. The original Memphis Belle, not the movie Memphis Belle, the original Memphis Belle. And boy, did they do a beautiful job of restoring that. You look in the ball turret, and every little component in there looks like it's brand new. Even the propellers are shiny. And, it's an awesome thing to save those memories. Because as you look at that ball turret, and you think about the guys, the kids, 17, 18, 19 years old, that flew in these planes, and I mean, balls, big brass ones, I'm telling you. So that was in there. The B-24, I can't remember the name of it now, Strawberry Bitch, I think, was there. They had Messerschmitts. They had the German V rockets. They had a V1 rocket. I think there was also a V2. Trying to picture my walk through this thing, because the place is enormous. I think Thursday and Friday, each day, I did almost 20,000 steps on each day going through the museum. Came around a lot of planes that I'd never seen before or never heard of before. There was, they had some Japanese Zeros. Every iteration of fighter and bomber through the years was there. Get around to coming towards the end of the World War II section. One of their the big displays was the B-29 boxcar. Boxcar was the name of the airplane, and it was a B-29 I believe a B-29 Stratofortress, or B-24. So I can't remember. I'll Again, I'll have all that information in a later date. But Boxcar is the airplane that dropped the Fat Man bomb on Nagasaki, which ended World War II. So that's there. And you can see that. It's sitting next to it is a replica of the Fat Boy bomb and the Little Man bomb. Fat Man, Little Boy, Fat Boy, Little Man, or something like that. Both of the bombs are there, the one that they dropped on Hiroshima and the one that they dropped on Nagasaki. Replicas, of course, because the originals are boom. All right. From there, down a hallway, around a corner, around another corner. Off to one side was the Aviation Hall of Fame. A lot of very interactive stuff in there, as far as educational things. And I'll have more pictures of that later. People, information, pretty much about all the heroes and everything of aviation. So back out of the hallway, down another couple of corners, and we come into the third building. I guess it's called the third building because they call the World War I exhibit the first building, World War II exhibit the second building. Third building is the Cold War era. One half of the building is dedicated to the Korean conflict, the other half to the Vietnam conflict. The main attraction in the Vietnam section, as you walk through that door and you look up to your right, or you look up to your left, is a B-52 inside the building. Yeah. Jacked up. And then they have so many aircraft in this museum that stuff is parked under other airplanes, next to other airplanes, real tight, close together. Korean conflict had your MiGs. It had your early jets, a lot of your early jets. Vietnam side had the F-105, the F-111, the A-7, the F-4 Phantom. No Navy planes. All Air Force and Army, Air Corps, and Marine airplanes in the Air Force Museum. So very cool to see. When you came out of that, I'm trying to. No, after the Vietnam. Yes, the Vietnam and Korean War was the second building. After the Vietnam and Korean War, you go into the third building, which was the Cold War era. And that was the B-2 stealth bomber. There was a B-1. The SR-71 Blackbird was there. Bunch of huge cargo planes and bombers that being Air Force planes I'm not really up on. And again, I'll have complete descriptions and pictures in a future episode. The fourth building was the research and development and the presidential display. Research and development, and that was all your X-planes. The X-1, the X-15, the twin Mustang was in there, which was two P-51 Mustangs mounted on one wing, which was a very, very weird looking, and I bet hard as hell to fly. A lot of space stuff was in that, in the R&D section. There was a full-size mock-up of the space shuttle that you could walk up into and look into the control deck, which was actually not mocked up. It was taken from a space shuttle simulator. So it's a full flight controls and everything with a couple of astronauts in there. Another great thing that the museum does is they've got like little dioramas with figures set up dressed in period clothing and stuff. Let me get real quick to the presidential display. A lot of the old Air Force Ones, starting with Roosevelt's plane, which was interesting because it had a special elevator in the back of the plane that would take Roosevelt up into it in his wheelchair. This is Roosevelt's, I think Truman's, what's the other one I went on? Next one I think was Truman's plane. Then they had LBJ's plane, but I can't remember now the order that they went in. But I noticed that as we went from older to newer, the planes got A, bigger, and B, more luxurious. So the newest of the Air Force Ones they had was Kennedy's Air Force One. And of course you could tour through them, walk down. They've got everything plexiglassed off so that you can't actually touch anything. But there's little plaques on the wall that tells you, what each section was for. And in the very back of the of Kennedy's Air Force One was the little plaque that said, this is the area where the seats were removed because they didn't want Kennedy's casket flying in the cargo hold. So, very, very interesting. I'm telling you, if you can afford to go out there and spend a week in that museum, there's no charge. If you grow up in Dayton, you could spend every single day in the summertime in that museum for free. Yeah, it's so cool. The air show was good. On Saturday, the skies were mush for the most part, but at some point in the afternoon, some blue skies started to pop up, and it started to get sunny. But for the most part, it was a kind of a gray sky, which us aviation photographers really don't like, the gray sky stuff. So late Saturday afternoon, while I was shooting, I started having problems with my right eye. And got back to the hotel, went out, took a shower, went out to dinner with my buddy Craig, and was still having problems, like a blind spot in here. And so I'm concerned because, this is my eyes are my thing, So I decided that I wasn't gonna, I woke up Sunday morning and it hadn't gotten any better. So I made the decision then that I was gonna blow off the air show on Sunday and drive back to Keene during the day. At this point, I see nothing out of my right eye. Drove back from Dayton on Sunday, got here Sunday night, and spent all day Monday. First stop was the ophthalmologist here in Keene, Dr. Jager. He saw me, dilated both of my eyes because he wanted to be able to compare what he saw inside, and informed me that I had a detached retina in my right eye. And he had his nurse make some phone calls, and he said, Dr. Fazalot in Manchester, we'll see you at quarter past 3 on Monday. So I drove from Keene to Manchester with my bad eye and my good eye, which had been dilated. And for all you photography people, operating in a world with a dilated pupil is like shooting everything in f2.8. It's got a lot of light going in, but the focus and the depth of field is kind of weird. So drove to Manchester to see Dr. Fazalot, and Dr. Jager told me that I should prepare, for possible surgery yesterday or today. And when I got over to Manchester, Dr. Fazalot I believe has scheduled me now for July 11th to go under the knife. And during my whole intake process over there, you get all the questions about have you ever had this, have you ever had this, have you done this, that, blah, blah, blah. And it got down to the question, have you had depression or anxiety? And I'm thinking, well, I'm a little anxious right now. So it's eye surgery, man. They're gonna do stuff to my eye. And with knives and shit involved. Sorry. Yeah, it's a little on the scary side. And as Dr. Fazalot was explaining the procedure to me, he asked me about anesthesia. And I guess there is a choice. They can hit you on the head with a hammer. Not really. They don't do that. There's what they call the local anesthesia, where they shoot the numbing stuff in around your eye, and then they put something in to, I guess, basically, it's like that date rape stuff where you're completely fully aware and awake, and you just don't care about anything, apparently, or something. Or the general anesthesia. And he says, well, what do you want? And I'm thinking, I'm kind of leery about being awake and watching somebody cut my eyeball open, I'm just, so I chose, well, maybe I can, take the general anesthesia. I would just as soon be knocked out, and then when I wake up, have it all done and taken care of. So that's going to keep me from editing, because trying to get good vision with just one eye to figure out, if my pictures are sharp or not, I want to make sure that I put out good product. So editing on my pictures will halt for a little while until I can get this straightened out. I'm still working every day because I can still do my job with one eye, basically, for what I have to do at Cheshire TV. So, and again, having to pay for retina reattachment. The surgeon wants to get paid up front, and I was told he's $2,000. The hospital over there, they're going to do it at a place called Elliott River's Edge. And I guess that's one of those places that will do charitable stuff. So I may be able to get a little bit of help there. But I'm looking probably at a total of $6,000, And then again, when you think about health insurance coverage, yes, I looked into the Obamacare stuff. And if I had chosen one of those plans, I think I had chosen one that was going to cost me, I don't know, $300 a month or something. And it didn't have any vision on it. So even if I had health care, the vision part wouldn't have been covered. So, what can you do? It's just, and again, I think if I have a health problem and somebody tells me, we've got a cure for your health problem, but it's way out of your financial reach, then why even have that solution if nobody can afford it? This is the thing about the healthcare industry. They know they've got you by the short hairs because it's your life that hangs in the balance. And won't you pay anything for your life? Well, I did a little mathematical figuring, and I haven't got the numbers from the hospital. I have to call them later after I get done taping this and find out what that price is going to be. But I did a little mathematical stuff, and, if this surgery is going to cost me $6,000, the question is my eyesight worth $6,000? Yeah, I think it is. At the same time, I feel that if I had another heart attack, And I did the same kind of a thing. You know, is the rest of my life going to be worth $150,000 or whatever? You know, maybe the answer is no. And I know a lot of people, a lot of people out there are going crazy right now. They go, oh, Rick, you're only 57 years old, blah, 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 you got a lot of life left. Maybe not. You know, I have wasted the best part of my life, and this is a warning to all you young people out there. Don't waste your life. Do everything you want to do when you're young. Because when you're old, you're either not fit enough, or, by the time you retire, you're spending all your money just to live. So, if you've got plans, you want to climb Everest in your 20s. If you want to fly fighter jets in your 20s. Because once you hit 50, 55, 60, you ain't flying fighter jets anymore. It's a young man's game. So, and I'm a realist when it comes to, yes, I know I'm going to die. Why people are so afraid, I don't understand. You make the best of your life while you're here. And go at any time, So, hey, let's shoot back over this other camera and wrap it up. So, all in all, it was a good trip. I got back here to do Unfiltered for this week, and I want to thank everybody for the Facebook well wishes that I got yesterday after I posted about the eye thing. And I guess that's about it. So until next week, which will be the day before my surgery, no, it'll be a week before my surgery. Until next week, which will be 4th of July week, I'm Rick Blood. This is Unfiltered. Peace.